Um, so as you guys know from having signed up for this webinar, in this webinar, what we are going to discuss is how you can get more leads into your funnel using chatbots. This is obviously, in the last 5 years at the very least, has been a bit of a hot topic in the world of digital marketing. I know that since getting into the chatbot space myself, I've seen chatbots and automation in general go from being a sort of niche tool used by a handful of tech enthusiasts to being sort of a mainstay in most digital marketers' toolkits. In this webinar, we're hoping to give you guys a primer if you haven't already explored the technology before, or if you have and you want to learn a little bit more about it, how we go about implementing a chatbot strategy to generate leads and to get them into your funnel, obviously. So let us get this started. So as always, we like to start our webinars with intros, just so that you guys know who your hosts are for the day. I'm Arnav, as I mentioned earlier today. I'm a marketer over here at TARS, and essentially what my job consists of is creating content just like this webinar, also blog post guides, the sort, to help you guys get the most out of chatbots that you guys use in your marketing campaigns. Today, I'm actually joined by Preetha Bose from Automate.io. They are a partner of ours, and we're working with them on this webinar because we really feel like the entire story about chatbots can't be told without the sort of technology that they are making at Automate. Preetha, do you want to go ahead and give yourself an intro? Because you'd probably do a better job than I would.
Sure. So, hello everyone, and this is Preetha from Automate.io, and I lead all the content marketing efforts there, pretty much like Arnav mentioned. So, this is the first time even we have teamed with TARS for this webinar on how chatbots can catalyze your lead generation process. So, today we'll not just redefine how chatbots are changing the way businesses are capturing leads, but we'll also go over the behind the scenes story where a chatbot, along with your other apps, can generate better leads for your business. So I'll let Arnav take the lead from here and get the ball rolling.
Sure. Thanks, Preetha. And really quick, to give you guys a sense of who we are as companies, just so that you guys know where our knowledge is coming from on this webinar. TARS has been around since 2016, and we've been helping customer experience teams, so that's customer service, customer support, and marketing, most importantly, marketing teams, boost their customer engagement using conversational tech. And we've been doing it since around 2016. And essentially what we mean by boost customer engagement is we help these teams improve the metrics that they optimize for, improve the KPIs that they optimize for. So in the context of customer experience, customer service, it's improving CSAT scores. And in the context of digital marketing, as you'll see in today's webinar, it's about increasing conversion rate, getting more leads from from whatever existing marketing efforts and marketing spend that you have right now. And then, Preetha, do you want to?
Yeah. So Automate.io is a simple no-code integration platform which lets you connect all your cloud apps, together and create a proper automated workflow. So, today we are teaming up with TARS. So since TARS is like the chatbot that's on the front end doing handling all the customer queries and user interfaces, and Automate.io is more like on the back end where the chatbot gets integrated with all your workforce. So I guess over the webinar, throughout the webinar, we'll explore how this happens, and you'll get to know how Automate.io and TARS work together.
Awesome. So to give you guys a sense of what we are going to discuss in this webinar, we've sort of divided it up into 5 parts. In the first part of the webinar, we're just going to define the buyer journey because it's a key aspect of what we are talking about today. You guys probably already have a good sense of what it is, but I just want to cover the topic real quick so that we're all on the same page about what part of marketing we are going to be talking about today. Then in the second part of the webinar, we're going to, second and third parts of the webinar, actually, we're sort of going to give you the why of why we're hosting this webinar, why chatbots are important, what they are, how they work. We're going to talk about that on top of slides, obviously, just to give you guys a sense of why it's important to think about chatbots and to think about automation in general. as a part of your marketing stack. And then we're going to follow that up in part 4 with a demo where we actually go into the TARS builder, we actually go into automate.io, and we show you how you can actually build a chatbot or a chat-based lead capture system that you can implement in your marketing stacks. And then finally, at the end, if depending on how much time we have left, we will open up the floor to questions and answers so that you guys can get any queries that you have resolved on the session. So let's jump right into the first part of this webinar. So broadly speaking, you guys have a sense of this already. Anyone who enters your funnel, any customer that enters your funnel, usually goes through this three-stage journey to becoming a customer. At first, they're sort of a prospect. They're just a random person sitting on their couch, browsing for a product or a service, whatever product service it is that you're buying. Maybe they do a Google search. Maybe they see your ad on a Google listing. They click on your ad, and at that point, they're still a prospect. They look through your landing page. Maybe they're interested and they fill out a form, and at that point they become a lead in your funnel, which you can follow up on to become a customer. Now, what we are talking about in this webinar, the reason I wanted to bring this user journey into the fore, the reason I've put this slide up is because in this webinar, we are only talking about the first part of this journey. Maybe in a future webinar, we'll cover what it takes to convert leads into customers. But in this webinar, we are going to be telling you how we've limited our scope to telling you guys how you can convert more prospects into leads using chatbots. And broadly speaking, we at least call this part of the funnel, this part of the journey, the top of the funnel. So we're going to be talking about how you can increase the number of people coming into the top of your funnel, like the title of this webinar suggests. So now with that in mind, we can actually go about the business of defining what we mean by chatbots, what exactly it is what exactly the technology we are talking about today is, and how it's going to actually help you achieve this outcome of getting more people from the prospect stage to the lead stage of the buyer journey. So again, chatbots are probably something that you guys have heard about before because they are such a hot topic in digital marketing. And you probably know the technical definition of what a chatbot is. It's a computer program that essentially talks with human beings to facilitate a trade of information or services. Any chatbot that you interact with on the internet fits this mold, fits this definition. You talk to it to either get your customer service queries resolved, in which case you're sending information to the company. It's sending you back information on how to resolve the issue that you're having. In the context of marketing, it's sending you information about the company. You're sending it information back, maybe about yourself, to generate a lead, which we'll get into in this webinar. But I don't like this definition because it's a little too plain for my liking, and it doesn't really get at what the value of a chatbot is. And I think it's super important to frame chatbots correctly in your mind, because if you don't do that, if you don't look at chatbots the right way, it's going to translate into the way that you build your chatbots, and that's going to translate into the outcomes of your chatbot, which are obviously not going to be good if you're not framing it in the right way. So the functional definition that I prefer to use when approaching chatbot development is to think of a chatbot as a virtual sales rep. If you assume, I mean, for a long time, we've been thinking about our websites, our landing pages like virtual storefronts, whether you're B2C services, B2C e-commerce, regardless of what industry you're in, what type of service you're selling, what type of product you're selling, we have come to think of websites and landing pages as our digital storefronts. That's where people come to interact with us. That's where people come to buy from us, where in the past they might have actually walked into a physical office or maybe even given us a phone call. Now, within the context of this digital storefront, you can think of your chatbot as that sales rep who's there in your physical store or in your physical office. So, for example, if you're an insurance agency and you have an office, the person who mans the front of that office, maybe they're a secretary, maybe they're another insurance agent, that person in the context of your website can be replaced by a chatbot, or a chatbot can essentially achieve the same things that person does. When you think about a a chatbot in this context, it sort of reframes the way you're thinking of what you want to achieve out of your chatbot, and that's going to impact, again, the way that you actually build your chatbot. Now, these metaphors are all well and good. They are a great way of thinking about chatbots, but what does this actually mean in practice? And to sort of explain that part of the story, we are going to divide the answer to the question up into two parts, into the front end duties and the back end duties of the chatbot, or of the virtual sales rep in this context. Now, on the front end, that's the part I'm going to be talking about, and Preetha's going to be talking about the back end because that's really where Automate.io excels. On the front end, the way I like to think about what role a chatbot plays on the front end of this digital storefront that you have, of this digital office that you have, is think about what a sales rep or what the person manning the front of your office in real life would do. Think back to the ancient times, 7, 8 months ago, when physical meetings were an actual thing. Uh, what did that person in what did that person do? Or even if you did business over a phone call, what did the person do who fielded phone calls? Maybe it's you who was fielding phone calls. And broadly speaking, in the context of most businesses, regardless of industry, regardless of product, regardless of service, those people do three things. They give the prospect information about your company. They answer any questions the prospect might have, and most importantly, they walk them through the buying and lead gen process. So they actually step them through that entire process. You can think about this in the context of something like insurance or mortgage. If someone walks in, the person at the front is going to walk them through the process of filling out whatever form they need to fill out. They might actually just take the information from them by asking it to them and fill out the form for them. So these are the sort of the key functions of that sales rep at the front of your store. And a chatbot essentially does the same thing in the context of your digital store. It gives your customers information about your company. We found that chatbots are an effective way of doing this because if you compare them to traditional landing pages, traditional websites where you have these blocks of text that prospects have to read through, chatbots take those same blocks of text and they make them into these bite-sized tweet length message bubbles that people actually read. I mean, you'd be surprised the number of people who land on websites and landing pages who don't actually read the text that's there. They just skim over it is astounding. And chatbots sort of circumvent that because they take that same information, they present it in a more digestible way. And by doing that, by presenting it in a more digestible way, they ensure that more people actually read that information. I mean, again, thinking about this with the analogy of your physical storefront, you can think about it as if you can think about it as a comparison between someone walking in and someone personally telling them about the company, an actual human being telling them about the company, or that person in the front just handing them a brochure and saying, here's what we do. Go ahead, sit in that chair and read about our company. The difference between those two interactions, even though you're presenting the same information, is they're miles apart. The second thing that chatbots are effective at, this is probably the context in which you have interacted with a chatbot before, is that they're great at answering questions. They're quite literally question answering machines. That's why they were created. And we found that chatbots are a great way to achieve this. In fact, a lot of our customers, even when they just hard code FAQs into their chatbot, which maybe we'll cover in our live build part of this session, even when they just hard code FAQs into their chatbot, they see a considerable increase in the rate at which people convert into actual leads. And more importantly, they actually see an improvement in their lead quality. So the people who interact with a chatbot and get their FAQs, even those 4 or 5 FAQs that most people have, even when they get those answered through a chatbot, the time to closure for those leads to customers is actually quicker because they have fewer questions along the buyer journey. They already know what's in store for them. They already know what to expect. And then your human sales reps down the line don't really have to deal with those questions anymore, and they can sort of quickly shepherd them to conversion. And finally, of course, chatbots are great at guiding people through the buying process. And And this is honestly the best way to think about this is right now you are probably using a form, you're probably using a lead capture form on your landing pages and on your websites, and absolutely no one in the world likes filling out that form. It's sort of a necessary evil that we've incorporated into our marketing stacks, purely because there hasn't been any other way to capture lead information before. But no one likes filling out that form, and believe it or not, that form is actually costing you leads because fewer leads are getting into your funnel because people land on your page, they read through whatever's there, maybe they like what they see, but once they see that form, a lot of them are clicking off because they're telling themselves, I'll fill this out later, I don't want to fill out a form right now, let me procrastinate this, and then they sort of kick the can down the road. And early on in the chatbot game, I remember when I first got in, we were all trying to figure out what the killer use case for chatbots was, and people thought they'd be these like ultimate like Jarvis type virtual assistants that could help you do everything from schedule an appointment to tell you what the meaning of life was. But it turned out it was actually a lot simpler than that. It was just lead generation. If you ask for the same information that your form asks for through a chatbot, you're going to see on average, in our experience, a 50% increase in conversion rate. In fact, it's a bit of an inside joke between the marketing and customer success team at TARS, because every time we're producing a case study, the customer tells us the same thing. We ask them how much their conversion rate increased from when they shifted from forms to chatbots, and they all say 50%. And then we sort of joke that if someone went to our case studies page, they'd probably think we were lying because every single case study says 50%. But we swear to God, it's not a lie. It's just on an average, when people shift from forms to chatbots, they do see on average a 50% increase in their conversion rate, give or take a couple of percentage points. Yeah. So on the front end, those are the three sort of values that chatbots offer. They are sort of your virtual sales rep, and their duties as that virtual sales rep on your website are to give people information about your company, answer questions, and guide them through the buying process. Now, before we sort of get to the upshot of all of this, what all of this achieves for your marketing stack in terms of outcomes, I'm going to hand it over to Preetha to talk about the back end side of what a chatbot does, because obviously virtual sales reps in real life, they don't only talk to customers on the front end, right? They do a lot of back end work as well to ensure that the funnel is structured, to ensure that the funnel is in order. And I was talking to Preetha about this before. Even our sales reps at TARS, when I talked to Ish, our co-founder, he says that sort of their two duties are being in the CRM and making sure it's organized, and sort of managing the CRM, and also talking to customers. So that backend stuff is just as important, and I'm going to hand it over to Preetha for that.
Yep. So thanks, Arnav. So like Arnav mentioned, so chatbots are extremely efficient and intelligent, of course. And since we are pulling a parallel here between the roles of a traditional sales rep and a chatbot, let's first see what a sales rep usually does. Like what are the roles? Things like filling out forms when a prospect comes in, managing the POS, and updating the CRM continuously. These are some of the daily tasks that a sales rep continuously needs to do, but it's not necessary that the sales rep has to do it manually, all of these. Let's say we put a chatbot in the front end to do this. Can a chatbot fill in a form? Of course it can, but for that you need to integrate a form builder with the chatbot, and you need to create the form so that the chatbot can do the task. So you see, actually we can say that a chatbot needs a back end running somewhere to get the front end part rolling. So if you go to the flow chart that we have here, so you see this is how a automated chatbot workflow looks like. When an initial information is captured from a potential lead. Let's take a typical use case here. So, when a potential lead approaches a chatbot, it is definitely to seek some information. It can be about the brand, it can be about a feature, it can do something about the pricing plan or some issue. A chatbot is designed to immediately capture the basic information. So, if you probably you have definitely interacted with various chatbots on various websites, so you'll see most chatbots take in basic information like email ID or name in order to make the conversation more personalized. So once it gets this information is actually automatically updated in the CRM and in the backend. I mean, you don't see this happening, but this is actually happening in the backend. So once it gets the information is automatically updated in the CRM, which is already integrated with the chatbot. A new entry is automatically created in the CRM. And now, if you there are various companies who prefer to maintain sheets and maintain drives. So the CRM is again connected to the drive. So entry is also created in the Google Sheet. So you see, this entire thing is happening simultaneously while the chatbot is interacting with the user on the front end. All these workflows are running smoothly in the back end. And this is possible when you have an integration platform which is pretty easy to use, much like automate.io. So let's say capturing information is the trigger action, is the trigger point for the chatbot. Once this trigger happens, the automated actions happen back to back. Now, if you look at this workflow, getting information of a potential user is just part one of what the chatbot is doing. The workflow does not end here. A potential lead still needs to convert into a signed up prospect and then into a paying customer, which is, of course, the entire funnel. But since we are talking about top of the funnel here, we'll not go much deeper into that. But obviously, you'll need to send out more marketing campaigns, more nurturing information. So you can connect, you have your chatbot connected with your CRM, you have your CRM connected with your sheets. You can actually connect your marketing automation tool or your email marketing app with your chatbot and get the automated process streamlined continuously. So, you see, in a nutshell, a chatbot ensures a smooth customer interaction and makes the transition from a visitor to a potential lead pretty easy. Meanwhile, the automated workflow runs at the back end to ensure that this transition from being a visitor to getting information and being a prospective lead happens with lesser friction. So, this is what it happens in the back end, with a no code automation platform. And I'll let Arnav take over from here now to give the upshots of what happens next.
Sure, thanks, Preeta. That was super informative. The way I like to think about it when you were talking is it's almost like if you think about your chatbot as that virtual sales rep, and our job as marketers is defining what that chatbot's brain looks like.
Yeah.
We're essentially adding skills to that chatbot's brain. On the one hand, it's obviously able to talk to people, so that's something that the chatbot's brain has the capability of doing. And then on the other hand, it has the ability to sort of do all of these back end tasks for it has the ability to do all of these back-end tasks that regular sales reps would do, regular human sales reps would do, and often people forget about that back-end stuff. When you think about chatbots, you think about it in the context of customer service, customer experience, but you forget about the sort of the back-end stuff that all of these human customer experience and customer service and sales people are doing in real life as well. And you need to factor that into your chatbot if you want it to be sort of this comprehensive replacement for your sales rep, or for your sales reps who are manning your physical stores or manning your digital stores in this case. Now, obviously, before we get into the demo part of this, we need to sort of discuss what the upshot of all of this is. What is the sort of end result? We sort of made this, I hope, compelling case for why chatbots are the sort of virtual sales reps in your virtual stores. But why does that matter? Why is that something that you should invest in? It's a nice metaphor, but why does it matter? And it really all boils down to what the title of this webinar was, which is how can you get more leads into your funnel using chatbots? And at the end of the day, that is the true value of a chatbot. People at the end of the day, they like customer service. They don't like going through bureaucratic processes, and they like it when people take out the time out of their day, out of their workday, to talk to them, walk them through information, as opposed to just throwing a bunch of text at them and a bunch of images at them. And that's essentially what chatbots are achieving. Everything that we just discussed, thinking about chatbots as your virtual sales rep, what they are achieving is that they are transforming these traditional workflows that we've been using in marketing for a long time, landing pages, websites, and all of the backend stuff that goes into connecting them to your CRM. They're taking these traditional workflows that let's be honest, are quite bureaucratic. Um, the process of going through a website, the process of going through a landing page, they are technically digital marketing. But if you think about the sorts of actions that you have to go through to generate a lead and find out information on a landing page, it's quite boring. You have to read through a bunch of text. You have to fill out a bunch of forms. Um, you have to fill out a bunch of forms, and that's not something that people enjoy doing. That's not something that most people enjoy doing. With a chatbot, on the other hand, you're reframing that entire experience. You're giving them the same information, you're collecting the same details from them, you're sending it to the same CRM. But the big change that you're making is that you're transforming and you're reframing that entire experience as a two-way interaction. You're reframing it as a customer service experience. And that change in experience, that improvement in the experience, makes people more likely to actually convert from prospects into leads. So if I flip all the way back to the diagram that I had earlier, um, beauty of slides is that you can flip back really easily. You are going to get more people moving from this prospect stage to this lead stage because they actually enjoy the experience a lot more. They're a lot more engaged and they're a lot more invested in it. And equally on the back end, when you set up your workflows right, you are able to improve your efficiency. You're able to improve your efficiency because data is getting to where it needs to, and that efficiency in turn is helping you save time, which of course, in the context, especially of smaller and medium-sized businesses, is money, because that saved time can be reinvested elsewhere in your business to generate more revenue. And the end result of all of that is more marketing ROI for you. You're getting more leads into your funnel. Because you're getting more leads into your funnel, because you're saving time, you are actually converting more of those leads into customers down the line. We obviously didn't talk about the sort of nurturing part of the buyer journey, and that results in more business for you. And that's, at the end of the day, what all marketers work for. As a marketer myself, I know this. The sort of KPIs that I optimize for at TARS are how well am I enabling the sales team down the line to convert more people into actual paying customers. And that's essentially what a chatbot is. As a marketer, that's essentially what a chatbot helps me do. And that's sort of the value for you guys. So now that we've got all of that all of that thinking out of the way, all of that sort of philosophizing, if you will, out of the way, we can actually move on to the actual demo part of this webinar before we jump into the Q&As. I think we're actually doing pretty well on time over here. So we can actually take a little bit of extra time with this demo to flesh it out a little bit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to jump out of my slides over here, and I'm actually going to jump into the TARS builder, where we are going to create a chatbot. And I'm going to have Preetha on for support with me. I'm going to take her input throughout the process. I'm going to use automate.io to integrate this chatbot with a Google Sheet that I have set up. Let me go ahead and open that Google Sheet up just so that we can see it in action. So let me open that sheet up. In the setup for this webinar, I obviously pulled up all of the tabs that I thought I needed, and I said to myself, "Oh, I have everything that I need. I don't need to open up any more tabs." And of course, every time I do that, every time I jump on one of these demos, I'm like, "Oh, forgot one tab." So now that we have the sheet open as well, what we are going to do is we're going to build it to give you guys an overview of what we are going to achieve with this, demo. We are going to build a chatbot over here in the TARS builder. We are going to use automate.io to connect this chatbot to this Google Sheet over here, where our lead information is going to be stored and captured. Now, the reason we're using Google Sheets is because most CRMs out there, generally, if you think about the way the contacts are stored, the underlying data structures, if you want to get a little wonky, is essentially a table with information. So if you learn how to send the information to your Google Sheet, you're going to be in good shape to send it to whatever CRM you are using on your own. We didn't want to pick a specific CRM. We didn't want to play favorites because we obviously know that you guys all use different CRMs, and Google Sheets is something we can all relate to. So with that, I'm actually going to jump in over here and start creating a chatbot. And in this case, the chatbot I decided to create just because I had the FAQs on hand. I'm going to create a chatbot for a law firm. Now, even if you don't run a law firm, the sort of learnings from this are going to be applicable because the concepts are the same, whether you're a law firm, whether you run um, a mortgage firm, whether you run a restaurant, the concepts are going to be the same really. So the first thing that you want to do when you are building a chatbot in the TARS builder is you want to create a gambit. And the way we think about a gambit is it's essentially a single back and forth between the user and the bot. A lot of you guys already probably know this. I see a lot of familiar faces in the audience, or familiar names at the very least in the audience, of existing TARS users. But for the people who are newer, the people who haven't seen the TARS builder before, the gambit is sort of the basic building block of a chatbot conversation. It's a single back and forth between user and bot. So the bot sends a set of messages up here, and the user can respond with a predefined type of user input over here. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename this gambit intro, because this is the introductory gambit. I'm going to give it a nice introduction over here. I'm going to say, hi, hi there. Welcome to the law offices, of TARS and Company, TARS and Co. We will help you with whatever legal services you need. I'm going to keep it vague for now. I think the FAQs I have over here are for a workers' compensation attorney. How can I help you today? You can imagine this chatbot is living on a landing page for an existing law firm. So again, it's sort of the sales rep who lives there. And when you walk into an actual law office, or if you walk into an actual store, what does the sales rep tell you? They ask you how they can help you. How can I help you today? Now, for the response over here, we can define what the user input is. First, I'm going to adjust these message delays over here. These message delays essentially tell the chatbot how long it should wait before sending this message, so how long it should show the typing animation. So over here, we're going to keep it simple. Instead of accepting an open text input, which is what most people think of as chatbots, chatbots as doing, what we are going to do is we're going to use buttons. And the reason we're going to use buttons over here is because there are really a fixed set of ways that people can proceed the interaction, right? We don't want people coming in and saying to a legal services firm, to a law firm, saying, hey, I want to buy a unicorn, because that's obviously not what a law firm does. They can either, the sales rep can either answer their questions about the law firm, or they can book a consultation with the law firm, right? Help them book a consultation in their law firm. And with those two options, there's no need to make the user type the entire response out. Instead, we can just give them two easy buttons that they can tap on to proceed the interaction. It reduces friction in the process, and in our experience, it makes people more likely to actually continue with the lead generation process, because it's just easier for them to continue. Tapping a button is way easier than typing out a whole response. So over here, we're gonna go with two options over here: book a consultation, and we're gonna say I have a question. Some people just say FAQs, but because this is a conversation, I like to frame it as if it is a conversation. So we can actually change this to, I want to book a consultation. I want to ask a question. Once we've set up those buttons over there, we can hit the save button at the top right. And now we have our first gambit in place. And you can see that we have two red sockets sticking out of the bottom. These red sockets correspond to the buttons that we defined in here. So the first red socket over here, I want to book a consultation. It corresponds to the I want to book a consultation option. And the second one, if I hover over it, corresponds to the I want to ask a question option. Now, what we can do over here is first, maybe let's build out the lead generation process, because I think it's going to be a lot simpler. And then depending on how we're doing with time, because I obviously know that you guys have a lot of other stuff to be doing during your day. We'll see if we can get to the FAQ part, but if we go through the lead generation part, you'll have a sense of how you can build out the FAQ part. Maybe we can add at least 1 or 2 FAQs into this chatbot to show you how the entire process works. So once the person says that they want to book a consultation, we're going to keep the lead information over here very simple. We want maybe three items from them. We want their name, we want their email, or we want their phone number, and we want to learn a little bit about what their requirements are from this law firm. So actually over here in my lead database, I actually have it incorrect. I have name, email, and phone number. I'm going to change this to name, query, and phone number. So this is information from a test I did before this webinar to make sure everything was working. And it was working, but if I know technology well, it'll probably not work while we're on the webinar, because that's just what technology does. No, but in all seriousness, I think we should be in good stead. So over here, what we're going to do is, now that when they've clicked the I want to book a consultation option, we want to ask for these 3 details from them. So we're going to obviously go in here. Let's ask them for their name first, because I found that, again, we're thinking about these chatbots as we were thinking about these chatbots as replacements for your actual sales reps. What would an actual sales rep do when someone walks into your physical store, your physical office? They probably want to know what the other person's name is. I find that, at least me, when I'm talking to a stranger, especially when it's a customer, I want to know who it is I'm talking to before I get into anything else, because that makes it easier. In fact, I was just on a customer service call yesterday, and the first thing that they asked me was my name, and I was like, why do you need my name? Don't you have it in my account? He was just like, I just want to know what I should call you through this interaction. And it's the same way for this chatbot as well. The chatbot it's a sales rep. It needs to know what to call the user through this interaction. So first, we're going to ask them for their name. So we're going to say, I need a few details to get you set up. First, an easy one. What is your name? And over here, we are actually going to have text input, because we obviously can't have every single name known to mankind written down as a button. So over here, we are going to keep it as text input, but instead of just having custom text in the text input configuration, we can sort of define what sort of verification we want to have. So over here, I'm going to go ahead and say full name, because we want the person's full name. And I'm going to hit save. So now the chatbot is going to make sure that it gets the user's full name. And to test out the chatbot as it is so far, I'm going to hit the publish button in the top right. I'm going to hit the preview option over here. Also, let's collapse this menu. We don't need it right now. It's going to say, hi there, welcome to the law offices of Tars and Company. We will help you with whatever legal services you need. How can I help you today? If I click on I want to book a consultation, it's going to say, great, I need a few details to get you set up. First, an easy one, what is your name? So we have these 2 gambits set up, a single back and forth over here, a single back and forth. Bot says these messages over here. The user says, I want to book a consultation. It moves on to the next gambit based on this user input. The bot says, great, I need a few details to get you set up. Now the user can say their name. Now, after they say their name, we don't really have anything set up after, so the conversation is obviously going to end there. So let's go ahead and define the rest of the conversation by adding a couple of gambits for the other 2 details that we needed, which were query and phone number. So I've created 2 gambits. I've connected them up in a chain over here. I'm going to go into the first one, and this is going to be the query gambit. So let's call this query. And we're going to say, what is your email? Let's put the question in first. But again, we're thinking about these chatbots like they are virtual sales reps. So if you want them to actually be effective, you need to make them actually talk like an actual sales rep would. And if someone just gives you their name, you are not going to just ask them the next question immediately. What you want to do is you want to make the chatbot feel a little bit more human. You want to say something like, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. And now we can use a feature of the TARS builder called data referencing, where we can refer to data from elsewhere in the conversation. So they just gave us their name. We want to say nice to meet you and then their name. So we want to pull that data in. We want to refer to that data. And the way we do that is we type out double curly braces. So over here I have double curly braces typed out, the opening ones. And now it's going to drop down all of the potential options we can select. You can see over here, it says ursp.name, ursp.gid_3. What these things are indicating is ursp means user response. And then the .name indicates from which gambit do we want to take the user response. So ursp.name will take the user response from the name gambit. So whatever name that they submitted over here, we can pull that into our conversation over here if we were to select the ursp.name option. Similarly, if we selected ursp.gid4 or ursp.intro, it would pull whatever input the user submitted in gid_4 or in intro. So if I said ursp.intro, it would say over here, nice to meet you, I want to book a consultation, because that's the input that the user submitted over there. But obviously we want the name. So let's go ahead and say ursp.name. And then what's your email? So we've acknowledged their input, or we don't want their email over here. Sorry, what am I doing? We want their query. Tell me a little bit about your requirements. We're going to leave it as a completely open custom text field. We don't need any verification because obviously every query is different. And then we are going to move on to the email or the phone number part of this, this flow. So finally, we're going to say, we're going to acknowledge the fact that they submitted their query. We're going to say something like noted. Could I need your phone number so that I can connect you with one of our lawyers. And now we are going to actually put a verification over here. We want to make sure that they're submitting a phone number. So over here, I'm going to select mobile, hit save. And now we have our entire lead generation flow set up. Now we want to close out the conversation. So what we're going to do is we're going to say thanks, and I'm going to say thank you. We have all of the information we need to research your case. Expect a call from us soon. And now over here, we can end the conversation by, from this dropdown, selecting auto page redirection. This ends the conversation. But obviously, the part of this, this flow that's missing is the part of this flow that is missing is the backend stuff that we were talking about. Usually conversations like this about chatbots end at the front end. Okay, the chatbot has now captured the lead information, and that's pretty much it, right? The chatbot's achieved what it wants to. It's asked the user the right questions, it got the right information from the user, and we're done, right? That's not the case. What we want to do, as I mentioned at the beginning, is send this information from the chatbot to the lead database that we have over here. And to do that, what we are going to do is we're going to use the automate.io service. So over here, I'm going to log in to my automate.io account. I actually set this up just last week, and it's pretty cool. I noticed that we had a question about automate.io versus Zapier, which I will let Preetha answer, or maybe you could answer it right now, or maybe we could save it for the end. But having used both, I don't want to say I have a favorite, but maybe I do. So over here, I've logged into my automate.io account, and interestingly enough, automate.io calls its automations bots as well, which sort of gets back at this idea that this functionality is sort of adding to the brain of your chatbot. what we are going to do is we're going to select the create a bot button in the top right of the page. And once you do that, it is going to give you an option to select a trigger app and a set series of action apps. Priva, I'm gonna take your support on this. I did this before, but as someone who uses this builder a lot more than I do, you probably will have some insight. But what I'm going to do over here in the trigger app section is I'm going to select the webhook option. It's in their premium plans, which I do have now. But what you want to do is select the webhook option. And once you select webhook, you want to select the incoming hook option that pops up over here. Now, what that's going to do is it's going to tell automate.io that to trigger this bot, to trigger this functionality, it's going to wait for information to be sent to an automate.io webhook. And I'm going to show you how you can send information to that webhook through the TARS builder. But before we move on to the action step, let's go ahead and set up this webhook. So I'm going to click on the setup webhook option. It's going to open up this this setup page for me over here, and it's going to give me a URL. What I want to do is I want to copy this URL, so I'm going to hit the copy button. I am going to jump back into my builder over here and jump into the end gambit that we have. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to switch this gambit from being a basic gambit to an API config gambit. Now, what the API config gambit does is what the API config gambit does is it allows me to make API calls in the middle of my chatbot so that I can send data, fetch data from wherever I want to. In this case, I'm sending all of the lead data that my chatbot just captured to my Google Sheet. So the URL that I just copied from automate.io, I am going to paste that URL over here. And what I want to do next is I want to add a series of queries that I want to add the details that I want to send over to that webhook. So what information do I want to send to my Google Sheet? I'm going to set that information up over here in the data / body section over here. Make sure you select make sure you select the URL encoded option up here instead of raw. That should make it easier for you. But over here, I'm gonna send the information that I want. So what is the information that we have? We have name, query, and phone number. And for now, before we actually send the name, query, and phone number that's captured by the chatbot, I'm going to send some test values. So we're going to put in Arnav Patel. For query, we are going to put in a server fell on me at work and I need compensation. I don't know what sorts of workers' compensation people who work in tech can get, what sorts of accidents we can get into. It's not like we have servers at office, especially now that we're working at home. So it's weird that a server fell on me at work. And then finally, we want a phone number. So I'm just going to give it a random phone number over here, because I do not want to give out my actual phone number on this webinar. And then once I have all of this set up, once I have all of the details that I want to send, name, query, phone number, and once I have the sample values set up in the value section, and I have my URL pasted over here, I've selected post from this dropdown. I'm going to hit send. And once I hit send, what you should see over here is it should say status success. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump back. I'm going to jump back to the automate.io webhook, and I'm going to click I'm done. Now, what I'm done is going to do is it's going to pull the sample data that I just sent it, and it's going to display it to me over here to make sure that it got everything correct. And as I can see over here, it has got all of the information correct. Everything that I just typed out in the chatbot builder is visible over here in the webhook. So essentially what I have done now, I'm going to say looks good, but what I have done now is I have set my chatbot up so that it captures lead information. And then we're going to show you how you can add the actual lead information captured as opposed to these test values, but it's going to be able to send that data to Automate.io. And now we need to tell Automate.io what to do with that data. So now Automate.io from this webhook, it knows that it is going to receive a phone number, a query, and an email. Now we need to tell it what to do with this phone number, query, and email. And obviously in this example, we want to send that information to the lead database that we've set up over here in our Google Sheet. So how do we do that? In the Action app, what we're going to do is we're going to select Google Sheets. Now, I already selected Google Sheets before. It's going to be a very basic process where you're just going to have to sign into your Google account, which is exactly what I did. And what within Google Sheets, there are several actions that Automate.io allows you to do. You can either search for a row, you can update a row, you can add a column, add a worksheet. But we're going to do the most basic thing over here. We are going to add a row. So every new lead that we capture, every new phone number, query, email, we want to add a row that contains all of those things over here. Right now it says email, but that was a test I was doing earlier. We want the query to be captured in that column over there. So we're going to select add a row. Now we need to tell Automate.io which spreadsheet we want to send all of that to. So over here from the dropdown, I'm going to select lead database because that's what my spreadsheet is called. And then within that spreadsheet, we're going to select sheet 1 because that's the worksheet we are working in. If you look at the bottom over here, it says sheet 1. That's the sheet that we are working in. And now what it's done is once I've defined those two parameters, is it's gone ahead and it's telling me what the column headings are for this Google Sheet. So it says name, query, and phone number. And the reason it's got name, query, and phone number over here is because those are the column headings I've defined over there. And essentially what Automate.io is now asking me is, what should I fill in? Okay, so I've got all of this information from this webhook. And once I've got this information from this webhook, you want me to add a row to this Google Sheet. These are the headings in the Google Sheet. What do you want me to add under each column? So over here, what we want to do is we want to map this information that we captured from this webhook, name, query, phone number. We want to map those to the name, query, and phone number columns in the Google Sheet. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to select this plus option on the right. We're going to select name over here, which is going to pull name. Preeta, do you think that so far we're going?
You are absolutely on track.
Awesome. Cool. I figured I'd have Preetha here from Automate.io in case something went wrong, because invariably something does go wrong. And she is a
Yeah, I think
pro here.
that is the USP of Automate.io. It is pretty easy. I mean, the
Yep.
most straightforward UI you can have.
Yep. Honestly, like the setup for this myself was like when I was testing this out for this webinar was insanely easy. I thought I set aside a
Yeah.
whole 30 to 40 minutes to figure it out, but it took me maybe 5 minutes. So what I've actually gone ahead and done over here is I did the same thing that I did for name, for query, and phone number. And what we are going to do right now is we're going to hit save. So we've had this whole thing set up. We've collected name, query, and phone number from the chatbot. Now we've said fill in name, query, and phone number into the Google Sheet like this. So we're going to hit save. We could add more steps to this so that we can do multiple things. Send it to Google Sheets, send it to us in Slack. But for now, let's just keep it in Google Sheets. Let's go ahead and hit save. The bot is currently turned off. Let's go ahead and turn it on. Test using live data. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump back into my Google Sheet and I'm going to hit send over here. It's going to say success. And you can see over here, congratulations, your bot is all good to go. If we jump back into the Google Sheet, we can see that all of the information that we submitted, a server fell on me at work and I need compensation, it's automatically been sent almost instantly from my chatbot to Google Sheets. Now there's one more step that we are going to have to take over here. I don't think we have time to go into the FAQ part of this webinar, but we do have other webinars where we have done that. And maybe if you guys are on during the Q&A section and one of you guys asks me, maybe I'll go ahead and build that out. I'm going to remove that for now. But the one key step that we have to do over here is we have to ensure that the chatbot isn't just sending test data, because right now, after the chatbot captures all of this information, it's just going to send the same test data right now. What we wanted to do is we wanted to send the actual data that it captures through the chatbot. So for that, what we are going to do is we are going to use the same data referencing feature that we talked about earlier. So I'm going to open up a double curly brace. I'm going to type in URSP for user response, and then dot. And now I'm going to tell it which gambit to look for this information from. So I'm going to say phone number, because we want the phone number to be taken from the phone number gambit. I'm going to, in the query section, I am going to say, instead of ursp.phone number, I'm going to say ursp.query, because we want it from the query gambit. And finally, in the name gambit, I'm going to say ursp.name. I think it was name. Was it name or full name? It was name. So now the way we have it set up is that once it reaches this point, once it's making this API call, instead of just sending test data to automate.io, which is then going to get populated in our Google Sheet, what it is going to do is it's going to actually send the data that it captured from the user. So let's go ahead and save this. Actually, we can even test this out right now. If I hit send, it should send just these. So over here it says ursp.name, ursp.query, ursp.phone number. But once you actually have the conversation, which I'm going to do right now, it will actually send the data that's captured by the user. So over here, let's jump in and actually have a conversation with this chatbot. This is what the chatbot looks like when you deploy it. You can deploy this to your Google ad campaigns just as it is. You can deploy it as a chatbot widget on your website or landing page. I'll show you what that looks like in just a second. Can say, I want to book a consultation. Great. I need a few details to get you set up. This is again our virtual sales rep over here. First an easy one. What's your name? Let's say Arnav Patel. This time it's capitalized. Nice to meet you, Arnav. Tell me a little bit about your requirements. Oh, you know, same old server accident. Send, noted. Finally, I need a phone number. Let's give it a test phone number again. Send. Thank you. We have all the information that we need. Expect a call from us soon. If I jump back in here, check it out. That conversation we just had automatically populated into the Google Sheet. Now, there's obviously a whole bunch of other cool stuff that you can do in both automate.io and DARS, but you have a good sense of how you can, at the most basic level, how you can set up a lead capture system, how you can set up a virtual sales rep for your website or your landing page to capture leads and automatically populate it into your CRM, and in the process get you more leads in your into your funnel. There's a lot more cool stuff we can do in here. We can obviously go into the view data section and view this data right now. We can obviously go into the design section and make this chatbot look a little bit better. The basic theme over here is kind of plain for my liking. So let's go ahead and change that to something a little bit more colorful. Okay, that's a little too colorful for my liking. Something like this. Hit publish, open it up, and we can see that the colors have changed. We're coming up to the end of our session right now. I would have ideally liked to add FAQs into the chatbot as well, but you have a basic sense of how to do it. Essentially, what you would do for the FAQs is you would just create more of these gambits over here in a branch maybe. So if you say, I have a question, you can branch the chatbot off in a different direction to handle those FAQs. So over here, we can say, we call this the FAQ gambit. Say, sure, what's your question? And then we can give them buttons for the FAQs. Let me move that out of the way. Give them buttons, and then have your FAQs here, FAQ1, FAQ2, FAQ3, 2, FAQ3, and then hit save. And now you can just branch these off in different directions with the different gambits. Each gambit has the answer to your questions. But I know that a lot of you guys might have to go. So before I actually show you guys this, if at all, I am going to go through the Q&As because we actually have we actually have some questions from you guys. And for the people who do have to leave, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up this before you leave really quick. I am going to go ahead and pull up this final slide of our webinar where it sort of has our contact details. You can contact us through any of these channels. For automate.io, you can contact them or sign up for their service, better yet, because it's so easy to use, just from their website, automate.io, as their name suggests. This is what it looks like. This is how you use it. Super easy to use. Highly recommend it. But if you want to contact us at DARS, you can go to our website. You can reach out to us on email. You can give us a phone call or send us a text, send us a WhatsApp message on the number above. If I'm not mistaken, we actually have a chatbot set up on this number on WhatsApp. So if you want to see what a WhatsApp chatbot looks like, go ahead and message us on that number on WhatsApp, and you can see what it looks like. But with that out of the way, let's move on to the Q&A, because I know that we have several over here. So I noticed that Preeta obviously responded to a question saying, is Automate.io better than Zapier? She said,
Yes.
absolutely yes. Um,
And you really have to try automate.io to know that answer. But yes, technically and practically and in all genuinity, it is actually better than Zapier. Zapier is our competitor. I'll be very honest here, but even then, I'll say that yes, automate.io is better. So
yeah, I
let's
think
see.
sorry, go ahead, Preeta.
No, no, I'm done. You go ahead.
So, I mean, honestly, I think the best way to sort of assess which one works for you best is just to use both of them. And I think the answer
Yeah.
would be pretty like the nature of Zapier and Automate.io is that like setting up an integration, especially on Automate.io, is extremely easy. Set them both up, see how they both work for you, and I'm sure you'll get your answer pretty easily. I know I did.
Yeah.
Um, is this how you create? So we have a question from Bruno over here that's asking whether this is how you create WhatsApp chatbots. The answer is yes. So we have the exact same builder for creating WhatsApp chatbots, and you go through the exact same process of setting up these gambits, hooking them up. There are a couple of key differences though. You have to obviously get approved for a WhatsApp business number and approved for the WhatsApp business API. WhatsApp doesn't support as many input UIs as a regular web-based chatbot does on TARS. So it doesn't have buttons in it. It doesn't have, for example, we have a lot of different input UIs over here. It doesn't have a star rating input. It doesn't have a date scroller input. It's pretty much just text. We do have workarounds for the buttons and the cards options, I think. The buttons options at the very least. Where it gives them a numbered list and they can select from that numbered list by typing 1 or 2 or typing the option out. But if you want more information on that, what you can actually do is you can go to our webinars page. Let me go ahead and open that up right now, and then I can send you a link in the chat to a webinar where we have covered. If you scroll down all the way back to a couple of months ago, we did a bunch of webinars about WhatsApp chatbots. So over here, if you scroll all the way down, you can see that we have a bunch of WhatsApp chatbot related webinars. These webinars cover everything that you need to know about WhatsApp chatbots. So we have over here, the first webinar we did is sort of a primer. It tells you everything that you need to know about WhatsApp chatbots. It'll get you up to speed on it. And we actually do show you what it looks like in the builder when you have a WhatsApp chatbot set up. Then we sort of do a comparison between WhatsApp chatbots and web-based chatbots, which sort of gets to your question, is this the same? We have a similar webinar where we set up a lead generation chatbot on WhatsApp. We do a customer support chatbot on WhatsApp. And perhaps the most interesting one, we show you how you can set up an entire ad campaign on Facebook that links directly to your WhatsApp chatbot. So people click on your on your Facebook ad and it drops you into a WhatsApp chatbot. So I'm going to drop this link in the chat so that all of you guys have access to all of our old webinars, all panelists and attend. Oh, actually, my colleague and friend Abhilash has gone ahead and already sent the link to the webinars in the chat right now. He's actually the co-host on this last one I was talking about, the Facebook ad campaign with WhatsApp chatbot one. He's co-host on that. So go ahead and check that webinar out. I think it should help you. It should help you figure that out. Also, we Bruno, who asked us the same question, just messaged the panelists in response to the previous question about automate.io versus Zapier. Bruno says that automate.io support is far better than Zapier, and he loves it.
Yeah,
So
thank you, Bruno, for the
that
good words.
that should help you. That should help you. That should help answer your question, if at all. Um, Oh, and Abhilash is also pointing out that we actually wrote an entire ebook about WhatsApp chatbots, which Bruno, you can find in the chat. Go ahead and access that ebook. That ebook is basically, think about all of these webinars that we have, that in PDF form, essentially. Um, so the next question that we have is from Desi. Hi, Desi. Desi, longtime chatbot user. We love Desi at TARS. Are you able to add a timestamp to this, Arnav? If I want to know the date and time I received the lead, that is a good question. Preeta, do you know if in automate.io it allows for a timestamp? I know a workaround for this in the TARS builder, but do you know if in automate.io?
Automate.io, if you want to know the date and time, I think it again depends on the value on the calling, the data that the API is calling. I mean, there is no specific other feature for that. Only when you enter one information, that information is captured into another. So
Got it.
yes, that information has to be captured first in TARS. Only then it comes back to the sheet.
Got it. Got it. That makes sense. So Desi, a workaround for this, super easy workaround for this is, I think what you can do is you can capture the date. What you can do is you can just add another column over here for a timestamp. So timestamp. And what you can do is in the TARS builder, you can, when the lead generation process starts, you can take a note of the time using an API again. So over here at the beginning of the flow, if you wanted to do another API config, do a API call to an API that gives you the current timestamp. You can send that timestamp that this API responds to you to automate.io to populate in oh, actually, this is the beauty of having your colleagues on your webinar with you. So actually, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and pull up this chat over here. So one of my colleagues, Levi, has been kind enough to point out to me that actually in the TARS builder, we do have the capability through data referencing to pull the current timestamp. Instead of doing URSP though, which is user response, you have to go into the USYS options. So USYS dot, and then I'm not sure what, maybe Levi can help me out with the exact slug that you have to put in over there to get the timestamp. But if not, what we will do is we'll pull up we'll attach a help doc. Um, uh, we'll attach a help doc. Okay, so Levi's going to share the help doc with us to pull on how you can pull the timestamp within the TARS builder. And what you can do is you can just send that timestamp from the TARS builder using USYS to automate.io so that the timestamp is populated into this sheet over here. And maybe if I answer all of these questions and you guys are still on the webinar, maybe I'll look through the help doc and see how I can implement that into this builder. One of the cool things I noticed in automate.io actually that I definitely want to test out is if I click create a bot over here, not only do like webhooks in general, I'd say are pretty standard in a service like automate.io, but there's also cool stuff like sentiment analysis and RSS feeds, which I think you could you could you could use in cool ways in a chatbot. Thank you so much for attending, Desi, by the way. We love you too at TARS. Um, uh, so we've got that question out of the way. How do you remove chatbot powered by TARS from the top of the bot? So I believe the white labeling, maybe I can get someone from my team who's on the chat. I believe white labeling is available in um, our higher tier plans. So the best way to discuss this is probably to book a demo with us. I think that Abhilash from my team submitted he sent a link on the webinar, which I am going to reshare on the chat, and I'm going to reshare as an answer to this question. Go ahead and book a demo with us, and we will actually go ahead and book a demo with us, and we'll walk you through that entire process. It is possible through our current system. That's pretty much it from our end. Thank you guys for attending this webinar. It has been great. I really appreciate you guys joining us for it. It was a pleasure hosting it for you guys, and obviously thank you, Preetha and
Yeah.
the folks that at
Thank you.
Automate.io for
Thank
making
you
this.
for inviting me to be a speaker for this amazing webinar. And all of you who've attended the webinar, thank you so much for making time and getting to attend this webinar and helping us, tell you how we are, helping businesses change the world.
Awesome. All right, guys. Oh, by the way, really quick before I end this, we will send you a recording to this webinar after it's done. It takes a little bit of time for Zoom to process it and then for us to upload it to YouTube and Wistia. But once we do that, as soon as we do that, we will send you a link to the recording. So you should be all set with that. Anyways, thank you guys for attending. Have a great rest of your day.
Yep.